Welcome back to Sunday Supplement. Alison Rudd, Charlie Wyatt and Julien Laurent are still with us, but we have a developing story now with regard to Newcastle United potentially and, of course, their search for another striker, Yoane Wissa. Keith Downey, our North East reporter, is waiting for us live right now. Keith, what is the latest? This sounds a bit of a familiar story to somebody else in the current Newcastle squad.
It does, Dharmesh. Yoane Wissa this morning has gone full Alexander Isak with an Instagram post of his own, essentially saying he wants out of Brentford with under 2 days of the transfer window to go and the clock ticking. It's quite a lengthy statement, this, Dharmesh, but I'll give you the nuts and bolts of it. He says, over the past few weeks, there's been increased speculation about my future at Brentford, and as a result, I wanted to speak directly and honestly about where things stand. He said, I've stayed silent for much of the summer, but with just hours remaining of the transfer window, I feel compelled to make it clear that I want to leave Brentford Football Club. I believe the club are unduly standing in my way despite a series of fair offers throughout the summer. Now, of course, Newcastle have made 2 offers to Brentford for Yoane Wissa. The latest of those was £35 million plus £5 million in add-ons, and that was turned down by Brentford. He continues, I have always given 100% for Brentford since the day I signed 4 years ago. I'm proud with what we have done together, and I did not take the opportunity to play for the club for granted. Brentford fans will always have a special place in my heart, and I have conducted myself professionally both on and off the pitch. A privilege to play 149 games and score 49 goals. And then he moves on and says, earlier this summer I held open discussions with the club's senior management, including key directors and the new head coach. I made it clear then that my intention was to explore a new challenge away from the club. During those conversations, it was confirmed to me and my representatives that the club would not stand in my way if a reasonable offer was received. This was also put in writing, Yoane Wissa says. Based on this understanding, I sought to find a new club, of course, that is Newcastle United, keeping Brentford informed with full transparency. I received a formal offer from another Premier League club and communicated that I wanted to join them. I was under the impression from all my conversations and agreements with Brentford that it was a mutual agreement to part ways. Yet as the window comes to an end, the club has now significantly changed its position, going against what was communicated. This has left me in a difficult, frustrating position, and the promise that I could leave this summer has not been fulfilled. It saddens me to have to write that, and I maintain total respect for the football club. So, I mean, there's more to that, Dharmesh, but look, Yoane Wissa clearly is frustrated that Brentford have dug their heels in and not sanctioned that move to Newcastle. As we have been saying for weeks now, Newcastle desperate for a second striker. Of course, they got the German Nick Waltemada in the door yesterday. Club record £69 million move. If Newcastle were to get a second one in the door, I think that means Isak is pretty much nailed on to join Liverpool. I think if they fail to get a second striker in, they still have a decision to make. And as we see with the Isak situation, and as you guys chat about on air in the studio, it's just a standoff with that situation at the moment. But look, it feels like a lot is going to happen in the remaining hours. Yoane Wissa making it clear he wants to join Newcastle United and leave Brentford. Newcastle also still got an iron in the fire with Jørgen Strand Larsen. I think one of those deals could happen, and normally when a player comes out like that and speaks so openly, things normally work out for them. Look what's happened with Alexander Isak. So that statement, Dharmesh, just in the last 10 minutes from Yoane Wissa on his Instagram page, and it's just another twist to what has been this saga for Newcastle all summer long as they look to try and bring in a couple of strikers. And of course, it's all brought around because Alexander Isak wants that move to Liverpool, and still wants that move to Liverpool with just hours of the window to go.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard the last of Wissa or Isak in the last few hours. Keith Downey, thank you very much for now. Right, Charlie, he says, Yoane Wissa, that he's got it in writing. I know we've always talked about gentlemen's agreements and promises, but the antidote to that almost is, well, the club can say, well, it's not in writing. He's actually saying it's in writing. We're clearly going to ask Brentford for their side of what looks like a pretty explosive statement there from Yoane Wissa. How do you see this panning out now? Does he get his move?
I think the interesting one is that a lot of people will be assuming that Newcastle are putting him up to this. And I don't think that's right. And I think already people are saying, well, you know, there's double standards from Newcastle. I think Newcastle have been quite unimpressed with Wissa. Knowing what Isak's been doing, I don't think Newcastle wanted Wissa to refuse to play or anything like that. So I have a lot of sympathy for Brentford. I mean, the last few years they've been one of the brilliant stories of English football, haven't they? And suddenly, just everyone has either left or wants to leave. And they've been always run properly, Brentford. So I would be surprised if they've gone back on their word with a player.
But it doesn't matter what. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
If you have in writing that if a decent offer comes in, well, what's a reasonable offer?
Yeah, exactly. They want 60 million. He thinks 40, which is what Newcastle are offering with the bonuses, is fair. Just put it down in writing instead of just in writing saying you can go if we get the right offer for you. What's the right offer? It's different from the player's point of view to the club's point of view. I know release clauses are not allowed here in England, not like in Spain, but just have a paper where you say if an offer of 40 million, 50 million, 60 million come in, then we'll let you go. And it's in writing. It's much easier because other than that, what's the right offer for Yoane Wissa? Is it 40? Is it 60? Is it in the middle? And I can see his frustration. I'm biased because he's one of mine. Obviously, he's Paris-born and bred. I like him a lot. But I can see his point. They said to him, we will let you go, but 60 million for somebody who turns 29 this year, it's a lot of money. It's a big ask from Brentford.
But the psychology of this is really fascinating because, Charlie, you're saying you're not sure that Newcastle like the attitude he's struck. Well, why aren't we questioning whether Liverpool like the attitude that Isak has struck? Why is one player going on strike seen as commitment to a club, whereas another player going on strike is seen as a slightly dodgy attitude?
Just to pick up on what the statement said at the end, being made to stay beyond this summer will only tarnish 4 wonderful years at this incredible club. That ship sailed now, hasn't it? To tarnish your relationship with that club.
It's a bit late.
Well, he says he hasn't said anything up until now. He did remove all Brentford iconography from his Instagram account, so he's been at this for a while now.
Yeah, he's clearly been professional, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's been badly advised. He's been badly advised.
Yeah.
But you say he's not being very professional. There are only a few hours left in this transfer window, Charlie, and when Alexander Isak put out his statement, there was only 12 days left. Is there a feeling that the players see that time as the only time that they can maybe have an impact, maybe they can engineer the move, because the music will stop on Monday night at 7 p.m, and if they're still at their club, they don't want to look back and think, what more could I have done to try and engineer this move?
Well, he's obviously desperate. I think that's clear, isn't it? But why didn't he say this at the start of the summer? Really be firm. Maybe he was, but I don't. It's not a great look, is it? It's not a surprise, and we've seen it in the past, and not always players have left. We've seen Coutinho and Raheem Sterling and Berbatov, and I know there's loads more that have not always got their moves. So I'm not sure. I'm still not convinced Wissa's going to end up leaving.